Well, it's not
Well,
working.
they didn't do it early. It's obviously a mistake of some sort. Because they can't do this early.
Yeah, yesterday they did.
Well, it means there's no more business.
They just did.
Okay, so let's get started, everybody.
They did?
Yeah, it's closed.
Permanently?
That's it.
So,
What don't you have
lost
access to?
everything?
Yeah, we lost everything
We gotta take it step
No,
by
but they
step. So
transferred
just hang tight.
already.
We haven't started
I
anything.
did.
We need to fix the room.
They said to the end of the month.
Something,
I hear.
John, there
No,
was
somebody
something.
said it.
They closed the WebForms yesterday.
You guys hold on a moment. So what's happening right now, so we're starting our recording of our session. You should, for those of you who are online, you should be able to see my desktop. It'll say CREA WebForms. These slides were prepared wonderfully by Corey Silver, our manager of our Merton and Beach offices. So it's a fantastic reference that you're going to be able to have access to. And you're going to be able to see it. For those of you who are in the Richmond Hill boardroom, you're going to be seeing this online here. The reason why is because it's also being streamed to all of the attendees who have joined us online. Okay, so I want everybody to turn off your computers or just close your screens for now. That's how we'll start. I'm going to go through these slides first. So I want everybody paying attention to the screen, because I want you basically to understand in a nutshell what the new CREA WebForms is all about, and then we're going to go through a hands-on session. So please close your laptops so you're not looking at it. Close your laptops. I'm not going to start until everybody's laptops are closed. And put your phones away. So Epstein, grab a chair. Hold on a second. Grab a chair. I was doing it in the other rooms too. So yeah, if you want to join the other room, that's the front desk. But come in here if you like. Oh,
Sorry about that.
just killed somebody's.
I'm sorry.
No, it's not your fault. My fault. I should have seen it. Okay, so let's get started. CREA WebForms. I'm not going to be answering questions today as to why this is happening, why Trev is doing this, why CREA is doing this. You know, we only have a couple of days left to launch. You know, why are they putting through all this trouble? It is what it is at this point, right? So the best thing to do is we got to learn it. So don't ever ask me that again, please. You're just going to ask me how you're going to be able to use these forms. That's what we're going to be talking about today. CREA WebForms. So a couple of things that we're going to talk through these slides first, and then we're going to go through a hands-on practical application of it, is we're going through these slides to have a basic understanding of how new web forms work. So there is a significant difference between old web forms and new web forms. That's obvious. And so we need to understand what those differences are and how we can make it work. We want you to feel comfortable enough so that today, everybody's going to be able to create at least one template and one offer using that template. So you know how right now you have buyer, seller of a condo, buyer, seller of a detached or a freehold, a renter, a list of rent for a condo or a freehold, an offer for a renter. You have various kits. You should have at least 8 kits. We're going to be creating one kit together. I'm going to show you the step-by-step process so that you can go on your own and create the remaining 7 kits using the kits that you either have right now on your old web forms or the guidelines that we're going to be sending out. We also want you to appreciate the positive aspects of the new system. So yes, this is a big change, and there's very few real big technological changes that ever happened. This is one of those things. There's a significant change, and with that comes significant benefits. Once you're able to navigate through this and figure it all out, you're going to see why the system has moved to this. And it's a predecessor basically to a completely paperless system where everything is integrated. One day you may not have to do trade sheets anymore because all the information will be, every information that's right from the beginning will probably be transferred all the way until the end of the transaction and into deal processing. So that's the future. Right now it doesn't change our existing processes, but this part where you're creating templates, creating offers, that's what we're going to be working on. So there's going to be a completely new look to this. So Corey put these screenshots together. Thank you very much, Corey, for doing that. And when we log in later, you're going to see the new look and feel of the CREA web forms. And so there's going to be a member dashboard, which happens when you log in. And I'm going to show you how to connect later the e-signature platform to this. So If you're using Docusign, you'll be able to link it to the new CREA WebForms. And this is the screen to do that. So later on, we're going to integrate the Docusign into CREA WebForms. Does somebody here have Docusign and has not yet integrated into the WebForms? Yeah, so that's quite a number of you. So we're gonna have a volunteer come up, and we're gonna be creating an entire template kit offer, and you'll be able to link your form to your what is it called, your e-signature to the platform. I think it's Vita who's gonna be doing this today, right? Are you? Yeah? Are you comfortable to do it? You sure? Okay. Well, all you have to do is log in. I'm going to do everything for you, but you just have to log in. Next. There's a couple of program settings that you can do. For example, you could change font for compatibility purposes. Any setups that you do, you click on the gears icon, and you'll notice you'll be able to change a lot of different settings. So if you want a bigger font to make it readable, more legible or readable, sorry, you'll be able to choose that. There's a lot of different settings that you can play around with. We'll go through that later. And this is a quick step by step, and you'll all have access to these slides, by the way, at the end of the meeting, in how to actually create a transaction. So for example, here, to create a transaction template, click on the lock and add templates to your dashboard. It's ideal to have only create transaction and templates on your dashboard. This particular screenshot is based on a customized version of the dashboard. So the dashboard is the default view once you log in. You're able to customize the look and feel of that to whatever it is that you want on there. I'll show you that later once we start with Vita's example. And it's highly recommended you use templates. Why? The reason why we're having this meeting and training session is because come December 16th now, as you notice the announcement, come December 16th, the existing WebForms, the legacy version they call it, will only become read-only. So you cannot create any more new transaction kits in it, which means you cannot create any more offers in it. That's December 16th. Originally, it was supposed to be January 1st or January 2nd, whatever it was. But now it's how many days away? 11 days, 10 days away. So I was at the head office this morning. We had a meeting, and we're actually going to be offering more training sessions in the next coming weeks at the training center. So if you feel that you need more practice on this after going through today's session and after watching the video, we have several sessions that are going to be announced. In Aurora next Tuesday, I'm going to be holding the same session at 9:30. So in this step-by-step process, you go to that, you click on that button, you click on Create Template. That's what we're going to do with Vita's example later on. And then you're going to notice here that there are transaction templates. If you don't have them, you have to just simply click on Add. I'll show you that later. I'm just giving you this preview so that you understand the screen by screen of what we're going to see later on. A template is the equivalent of your kits, right? The transaction kits that you currently have right now. So in the existing WebForms, what you're currently doing is whenever you have a new offer, you typically pick the kit that's appropriate, freehold buyer sale or condo buyer sale. And then you duplicate it, and then you work off of that. This is pretty much a similar idea, except the mistake that you might make on WebForms is you might start editing that kit. And then all of a sudden, you have to create a new kit from blank. Does that make sense? Here, part of the system setting is creating that template. And that template, unless you touch it, is pretty much set in stone. So whenever you create a new transaction, it pulls from one of these templates. Does that make sense? So at the end of this, you should have 8 templates. So whether you're doing a freehold buy sell, lease buy sell, a listing of a condo or a freehold, whatever it is, you're going to have templates where all of the documents will be pulling out of. And each of these templates has forms, as you'll see later on. And a lot of the features that tie in with the new CREA WebForms allows you to do this in a lot easier process. Now, just as an aside, you have 2 options after today. One is you create the 7 other templates, except for Vita. Everybody else will need to create 8 templates. Vita will need to create 7 more because I'm going to do 1 for her. But basically, Connie and I were going to be giving out a checklist of here's what you need for this particular template. How do you add these forms in? And we are also giving the freehold clauses as well as the condo clauses for the purchase offer. So if you feel you need to refresh yours, you'll have that for you. If not, you can use your existing one, but make sure you copy it over because all of that is going to start to disappear. Your second option is you can employ Red Rover. So for those of you who have ever used Red Rover before, Red Rover, basically you can outsource this entire service and have them set up all of this for you. So I believe it's for $25 an hour they charge for the setup. I think it's going to be $50. There's roughly 2 hours of work. Who knows, maybe more, but you have to speak with them about that. www.callredrover.com. You'll be able to speak with Caitlin or Shanna, and they'll be able to help you out setting that up. 2 options. There is no Jonder. Can you make my template kits for me? Connie, can you make my template kits for me? Jordan, can you make my template kits for me? No?
I got my own.
No, right?
50
2
bucks.
options.
Well, $50.
Connie and I charge a higher per hour rate than Call Red Rover.
But you're more efficient,
Jordan says you're more efficient. We'll see. Once your templates are set up, you can create a transaction by clicking on the Create Transaction. So again, just to give you a preview, we've created a template, which we're going to do shortly. Now you create a transaction by clicking on the Create Transaction button. And then once you clicked on that, you see the neat thing about this, it's going to ask you, what template would you like to use, right? So whereas in WebForms, you duplicate what you first you look for that template, then you duplicate it, then you start editing it. Here, you create transaction, put a name to that transaction, and then choose which template is it. So here's the first problem you're going to encounter if you don't create these templates. You're going to have to create everything from scratch every single time. This new CREA WebForms is so efficient that as long as you've identified what templates to use, it'll pull all of the forms that you need, and that entire transaction will already be set up for you. And you don't have to do very much in order for you to keep going with that transaction. We're saving the questions. Sorry, we're saving the questions till the end. So if you do have a question, just for the sake of time, if you have any questions, please jot it down so that you don't forget. But I will answer every question at the end today. This is what it's going to look like. You can actually pull data from the Toronto MLS. So you put Toronto, you put the MLS number on it, it will pull all of the information onto, well, whatever is properly populated will be pulled in. It doesn't replace you having to search, review the form just to make sure everything's okay. In the end, please. Yeah, the question, yeah, it was available in the old one. Let's save the question to the end. With regards to the actual next step, it's going to be Wizard. So the wizard actually allows you to input information that may not necessarily appear when you pull the information from, where's the feedback coming from? When you pull the information from CREA. And we're going to go through that again in a live example later on. And that's what the wizard would look like. When you get to the agreement of purchase and sale, you'll be able to fill it up. So after you've gone through the wizard, okay, so everybody who's joined us online, can you mute your microphones, please? Because we're hearing your echo. I can hear somebody. Yeah, please mute your. Okay, there you go. Star one. Okay. All right. Okay. Transaction forms, you'll be able to open it up once you get to that screen. And then you can send it to Docusign. So what we've done so far, we created a transaction kit. We created a transaction. We classified the information we pulled from the MLS, which yes, you can do the existing MLS. We are able to see all of the different forms. We can send it to Docusign using this once we've linked. And that's pretty much it. We're done. Class is Smith. Faster than yesterday, right? No, I'm just kidding. Okay, you know what? I know, okay, you guys, I know you have questions. I want to save everything as much as possible to the end, and you'll see why. Because the last session I did at Baby was 2.5 hours long, because question after question after question, which is fine, because we're all going through this together and we're discovering different things. My main aim, though, is to go through this once with you, just to make sure, because I may be covering whatever you're planning to ask me. So is it okay? I mean, we can have 1 minute of questions now, or does everybody want to save it in the end? for the sake of everybody. Leave it at the end? Okay. If you have any questions, ask me because I may end up covering it while we're going through this. And everybody, again, once everybody who is logged in online, please somebody mute the microphone. Like you can hear the echo. It sounds like somebody's washing dishes in the background. Okay, we're gonna find out who that is. Okay, we good? Are we good? Okay, we're still on. Okay. Okay, everybody open up your computers. And Vida, can you please come to the front? Okay, hold on. Okay, hold on. I'm figuring out who is not muted yet. Okay. All right, everybody. Is everybody ready to go? You should. Yeah, no, there. Let me move this down. Okay. Okay, so here's the thing. Because there's a lot of different screens and a lot of different motions going on all at once, this is the only thing I'm asking. And as much as possible, let's minimize the person-to-person conversations with each other as well. Please.
Would you like
She's gonna log in. So here's what we're gonna do. I want you to follow along on the screen with me. If somehow you fall behind, please just put your head up and attention to the screen, because you'll be able to watch this on the replay. I want to minimize as much chit chat with each other. The reason why we're in such a small room, we're recording the session as well. And so everything is going to be heard. And I want, when you guys watch this, that there's minimal distractions, right? Minimal distractions, please. So the first screen we're going to be on, everybody's going to be on the same page, is Toronto MLS. If you're on any other screen than Toronto MLS, good for you, but you're going to have to wait until we get to that screen. Okay? Toronto MLS, so log in, Vita. So for those of you who already have CREA WebForms open, such as General, you don't have to be sorry, that's okay.
I opened them both. I opened this one and this one,
okay,
because
so,
yesterday you talked
okay,
about.
so log out. If
to
you open them both, log out, please. What we discovered yesterday at Bayview is that there's going to be a data disparity if you log into both of them at the same time. That's why I want everybody to follow along. Log out completely. You have logged into both, log out completely.
Both, which one?
If you logged into both CREA WebForms and TREB Internet Docusign, which we're not talking about today, just CREA WebForms today, log out of it completely. Close your browser, and then open up the browser and start again. So TorontoMLS.net. The reason why is because if you're running both at the same time, it's going to screw up, basically. There's going to be mess up of data between the two. You're only going to be logged into one today. And so when we're on this screen, which you're all familiar with, which is the home page screen, in order for us to access WebForms, we click here. Is everybody with me so far? This is CREA WebForms. TREB's Internet Docusign, which we're not going to cover today, I'll tell you why in the end, is this button. Do not click on that. Do not click on both. Just click on WebForms today. Again, if you click on both, you're already going to fall behind because you need to log out, log back in again. And so this is now loading up for Vita. This is now loading up for Vita. Come on. Okay, give me 1 second. Which it's not loading up for Vita. Our first glitch. Okay. second plan of action. If that doesn't work for you, for most of you, you already see, I don't know why Vita's account is not working. Actually, there it is. Now it's back. Okay, wonderful. Sign in. Now, when you click on sign in here, you can have a seat. Thank you very much, Vita. Everybody give her a round of applause. Yeah. Right? When everybody logs in, so for those of you listening online and for everybody here, when you log in from now on to WebForms, which is CREA WebForms, you won't see your legacy version, so you're going to wonder, oh my goodness, what happened to all of my offers? They are still there. I'm going to show you how to access it. However, this is the screen that you will now see based on what Vita has seen opening it up. Now, you're going to be able to access a quick start guide. You can read this stuff later. We're going to close this for now. But to access your existing web form so that you can retrieve any data you think you might need, just click on this button, Legacy. See this button up here, Legacy version? That will bring you to the old web forms. I'm not going to go into that right now because I want to show you basically all of this information, and this is what we're going to be working off of. So you are able to customize the look and feel of this member dashboard as Corey has taught us in his slides. However, today's session, I'm going to focus on really just 3 things today. Number 1, how do you create a transaction kit? And today we're going to create a Freehold buyer offer forms for Vita. Number 2, how do you create a transaction? So how do you make an offer on a Freehold property? Once you do this on your own, you'll be able to do it for condo, etc. Number 2. Number 3, how do you get it signed? Because I'm sure all of you will agree with me that with those 3 things, come December 16 or come January, come whenever you make your next offer, you'll be okay, right? So transaction kit, number 1. Number 2, create an actual transaction using that kit or that template. And then number 3, how to get it signed. Is that fair? Now, the first thing we're going to do is this is called a hamburger menu because it looks like a hamburger. Don't ask me if I can make that name up. When you click on the hamburger menu, the side menu opens up here where you see all of the different options you have. Don't get overwhelmed by all the different options because chances are you won't be using a lot of these for now. What we're going to be focusing on today is pretty much the transactions, the forms, this setup button, and this little shopping cart. In fact, the first thing that we're going to do, oh, wonderful. The first thing that we're going to do is we're going to set up your e-signature. So we're going to start today with the e-signature so that we get that out of the way. You have Docusign, right, Vita? Okay. We're going to click on the App Store. So for those of you who have Docusign, you can follow along with this. If you don't have Docusign, just forget about this part for now. What we're doing is we're linking Docusign to your web forms, to your CREA web forms. So click on App Store. What will happen is that it's going to load up all of the different compatibilities of e-signature, and Docusign is one of them. So actually, Vita, I'm going to get you to come back up here again. You click on link for Docusign, and then what it's going to ask you to do is log in. So go ahead and log into your Docusign account, just as Vita is doing up here. If you have Docusign, you can do that. If you don't, you have to sign up for Docusign. Now, if you have a question about Docusign, I'm not going to answer that right now because you'll notice that a couple of things you have to go through to be able to link it. We're just going to work with Docusign today. You don't need to have it if you don't want to do signature. You want to integrate this completely?
Accepted.
Okay. Good. So now Docusign is linked to her account. We're not going to talk about Untitled today. If we have time in the end, I'll answer the questions to Untitled because there is something very important to remember about it, to discuss about it. But today I just want you to be comfortable with making an offer with a transaction template and using Docusign for it. For Untitled users, I know there's a couple of Untitled users here. I'm going to go through and discuss that later on, if that's okay. Yeah. So now what we're going to do is click on the hamburger menu, and we're going to create our first template, transaction template. We're going to click on Setup, and we're going to click here on Transaction Templates. You'll notice that Vita has been playing around with this and has sort of one training one that she tried to do. Most of you will have nothing on that screen at this point. And so what we're going to do is click on Add, and we'll call this particular template a freehold buyer. Now in the type, you can click on residential sale, residential listing, condo lease, condo listing, condo sale. This is likely a residential sale, which means you're selling to a buyer. It's not a residential listing, that's for sure. You save that for a listing template. This says freehold buyer. Those of you at the back, this says freehold buyer. The name you can type in whatever you want, whatever you will remember the template by. Freehold buyer, condo buyer, freehold seller, condo seller. You type in whatever you want. We're doing a freehold buyer template today, and we're doing a freehold offer. So I named mine freehold buyer, and the type is residential sale. And the reason why there's a type is because this is a very sophisticated program. In the future, this is going to likely be an end-to-end solution to an entire transaction management. And so the reason why they have certain types is because the program is so smart that when it knows what kind of transaction it is, everything in that transaction will reflect the fact that it is a residential sale from a buyer, right? So when you set up lawyer's information, contact information for everything, if you have e-signatures in place, everything will reflect the fact that it's a residential sale. So when you're setting up these templates, it's important to identify what type of transaction it is. So if it's, for example, when you create your own kits later on, if you're doing a listing kit for a freehold, it would say residential listing. If you're doing a condo listing kit, so all the forms for a condo listing, it would say condo listing. If you're doing buyer for a condo, it would be a condo sale. Is everybody with me? Does that make sense? So this one is a residential sale. Description is just for your own records and purposes. If you want to, we're not going to have that. We will click on save, and here's the next screen, a transaction template. Now, you may be overwhelmed. Look, there's just so much stuff to look at. But I want you to focus today on just the most important things which I will discuss. Because in the future, you can add checklists, you can add contacts, you can add documents, you can add forms, you can even share this within your team. So your team members actually have access to all of your information on these documents. But today, we're not going to be looking at that in this particular setting. We're just going to be looking at the forms needed to complete this transaction template. Therefore, we will click on Forms here. You're going to see that there's nothing because we haven't done anything yet. So we're going to click here on the plus, which is to add forms. Now here's a pop quiz. Who wants to volunteer for this? Ready? Okay. Stephen will be the one to do it. What are the forms that go into a freehold buyer offer?
For an agreement of purchase and
Agreement of
sale.
purchase and sale. So that's one. So on this screen, you can type search. I could type in agreement of purchase and sale. I can type in the number, which is 100, or I can manually look it up on the folder. Does that make sense? What we're going to do is we're going to start typing up agreement of purchase and sale. And what you're going to notice is all the forms that are agreement of purchase and sale show up, including condos, everything. So instead, what we'll do is we'll type it by number. And Connie, when we send out that checklist, it'll be by number as well, right? So every single one of you will get a checklist of every single form you need for every single kind of transaction in numbers. So instead of us doing this by typing it up, you'll be able to type in the number of the form and just click add every time, right? So number 100 is one. Now once that loads up, again, there's still a couple of options. One thing to keep in mind is that with this particular program, you have to pre-select how many pages your Schedule A will be. 1 page, 2 page, 3 pages, 5 pages. Typically, I would recommend having a 2-page because that's what we're going to be creating today. But just keep that in mind because if you start with 1 on the template and you need to add additional ones, you'll either have to modify this template or you're going to have to add that as a form within a transaction kit. To keep it simple, let's just pick a 2-pager. Does that make sense? 2-page of Schedule A. So I'm not going to click add yet. There's on the basket, there's already 1 form in the basket. What else do we need for a purchase, freehold purchase? Confirmation, which is 320. Okay, so we're going to add that. Add the English one. Gemma can add the French one if she has a French client, right? What else? 810. 810? Working with a realtor. Perfect. So we click on that. Now there's 3 in the basket. What else?
127.
127. Disclosure, acknowledgement and conditions and offer. Good. What else? FinTrack. 630. What else?
Waiver form.
Buyer agency.
Buyer agency. which is 300. Good. What else?
Waiver form,
Waivers, which is Form 123. What else?
amendment.
Amendment, which is
To be-
113. Sorry,
Could you please
One-
slow down?
Go slowly.
320, 120,
120. What else?
320.
320 we have. What else? Now notice, okay, so while everyone's catching up, notice what we're doing is we're creating a full template from beginning to end, including waivers, amendments, notice of fulfillments. The reason being, once you start a transaction kit using this template, you'll have every form you need. So the moment you need a waiver, you just go back into the transaction kit and you pull up that waiver without having to add it later on to the kit. That's why we're doing that. So for those of you, again, we will go through the entire basket of forms here. So for those of you who want to have a look at that. So what we have so far is 100, 320, 810, 127, 630, 300, 123, 120. We have a couple more forms to go. But again, don't sweat it if you don't get this perfect now, because we will give you a checklist of all the forms you'll need for your own templates when you set it up. Fax? Fax? What is fax?
124.
Fax form? Okay, hold on. What is that number?
635.
635? Receipt of funds? Okay, receipt of funds. Notice of fulfillment. Some of you don't use notice of fulfillment. You should be using notice of fulfillment depending on the situation. 124. You have two more forms. Hold on.
We did 127.
We don't want mutual release.
Mutual release, no. If anybody adds a mutual, I'm just kidding. No. I will
And I hate that one.
add it manually. Don't put it in there. I don't want to make it easy for you to mutual release. No.
Don't jinx it.
Don't jinx it. What else are we missing?
122.
What is 122?
There's
Let's
no
see.
mutual release in our.
No, we're not doing it.
No mutual release. No, not in this basket. Sorry, no. No, I will not check out with that in my basket. What else?
Register real estate agent buyer.
Yes, disclosure statements. We're not going to add disclosure statements to this kit because most of the time you're not working with another agent.
But it's good to have.
I'm going to show you in a later example how to add any form to a transaction kit. Sorry, an actual transaction if you do need it. So something like that, you're not going to have that in every single transaction. 801, offer summary, we didn't have that yet. What else?
Buyer disclosure. No, seller disclosure.
We're not going to put the disclosures in this one. What else? 109, offer conveyance acknowledgement. Okay, anything else? 120, I think we did 120. Yeah, we do have 120. Okay, so what we have, again, 100, 320, 810, 127, 630, 300, 123, 120, 635. Okay, I'm going to go here. 100, agreement of purchase and sale.
Yeah.
320, confirmation of co-op. 810, working with realtor.
Yeah.
127, acknowledgement of conditions and offer. And again, guys, don't sweat about writing this stuff down because we're going to be giving you the checklist for this. We're going to be giving all of this to you. So I just want to show you as an example today what to put together. So even if you don't write this down, you're going to be okay. We'll have every transaction template given to you. 300, buyer rep. 123, waiver. 120, amendment to agreement of purchase and sale. 635, receipt of funds. 124, notice of fulfillment. 801, offer summary. 109, offer conveyance. We have to put FinTrack ID as well. Actually, no, we have that as well. Anything missing in that kit?
Secondary schedule.
That comes later on. That'll come later on. What's that? This is 12.
What was the feed track number?
635 and 630.
Can we add two FinTrack 630? Or?
You can. So here's a good question as it is. With regards to this, when we have our first batch here, you can click on add and it'll add the entire thing. It won't let you add two right away. So you're going to have to go back in and add. So I'll show you an example of this. Is everybody okay with these forms then that we have so far? So we'll click on add. So we've added 12, but we need another. So for example, if you're dealing with two buyers, you need a second FinTrack, right? So we would click on add again. We'll pull up 630 again, right? And then we'll add a second individual identification record. Right? Does that make sense?
630 individual, and the next one?
Because you need two.
635.
I think you'd do a whole
Receipt
new
of funds.
transaction kit, John, if you had a second buyer.
You wouldn't do a separate transaction kit for the
Are you
second
talking
buyer.
about
No.
like husband and wife?
You need two IDs. You need two IDs. Is everybody with me so far?
Yes.
Please don't sweat out not having this entire template kit complete. We're doing this as a demo. You will get from Connie and myself, we're sending out checklists with all the form numbers. So I know I'm going with this fast because I need to cut this in an hour, right? My main thing that I want you to see is the functionality. If you finish through this and you have half of the forms, that's okay, because at least you now know how to add these forms in. I don't want you to sweat it. Even though it's really hot in this room, I don't want you to sweat it, right? So as long as you know how to add forms to a template, you've already accomplished this task. Whether it's perfect or not doesn't matter at this point. We'll give you the checklist so that you complete it later on. Now, what we're going to do next is I've kind of cheated a bit because I have windows open. This is something that you won't be able to do right now. So I want everybody just to watch the screen. Let's watch the screen. I have my freehold offer clauses ready done because Connie sent them to me by email. And so you have two options here. Number one, you probably already have an existing offer where you have standard clauses that you've always used. To prepare for this step, you should copy and paste that into a Word document of some sort, or you should have it handy some sort so that you can copy and paste it, because that's what we're going to do next here. The second step is, again, Connie and I, we're going to be providing these to you. So we're going to put this all together in a folder once this video is published as well, so you have access to it, and you can just copy and paste off of this. So those are the two options that you have. So that's why some of you won't be able to do this right now, so just don't worry about it because you don't have this ready. I would just want you to see how to do it though. I have it open in a Google Docs document. You could have it open in a Word document, in a Pages document, doesn't matter what it is. But the next step is I'm going to be copying and pasting clauses into this transaction template. That was your question.
Yeah.
So there you go. That question has been answered or will be answered. So here is what you're going to see on the screen now. We're going to look for the agreement of purchase and sale. And as you know, it's blank. I'm editing it in the transaction templates screen, which means once this is edited, every time you create a transaction using this template, it will always have this. So every single time you create a transaction, it's going to have the same agreement of purchase and sale schedule. So what we'll do is we're going to go all the way to the bottom. Now, if you want to cheat a little bit, and not cheat, but take a shortcut, you can also fill in. For example, co-op brokerage will always be you. So if you want your transaction kits to always have Remax Hallmark, your names, your phone number, you can also do that now in the transaction kit. So I'm just going to do it for Vita just for sake of example. And then the phone number is 905-883-4922, and the name Vita Beruzier, right? If you have two salespeople, that's where it'll show up. Now, if your chattels are always going to be the same, you can put it in, but I'm not going to put it into this particular example because sometimes it's different. Now, here's a warning to all of you. We picked a 2-page Schedule A. If I were to copy and paste 2 pages of clauses into the Schedule A here, I'm going to show you what happens so that you, in case you're wondering why certain things happen, you'll know. So I'm copying 2 pages worth of clauses into this agreement of purchase and sale schedule. And what do you think happens? What do you see on your screen?
Not enough.
It's not enough room. So what's going to happen is if you don't fix this problem and you print, it's going to be missing all of the clauses that are below the print area. It will disappear. This is a flaw in the system. They'll probably fix it later on, but who knows? I just want you to be aware. Because the second thing that could happen is you may be adding clauses and not realizing that you should have started on the following page because it's already full. So if you run into a situation where you're preparing an offer and for whatever reason your clauses are not printing, this is the problem. You have to manually keep track of how much that page is filled. And how you'll know is this. If I can scroll, like you see the scroll bar that appears? If I'm on that page and a secondary scroll and a scroll bar appears within that page too, that means I'm scrolling within clauses within this page. And so what we're going to do the way we've designed these offer clauses is we have a one page here, right? And then we have a second page here. So when you are copying and pasting the one that Connie will send out to all of us to use, for all of us to use, copy first the first page of clauses. I'm going to delete everything here. We know that this is the first page of the Schedule A because it says buyer agrees to pay the balance as follows. Therefore, we're going to copy and paste the first page of the clauses onto the first page of the web forms. And then I'm going to go here. And on the second page of clauses, it says page 2 for that very reason, to make it easy for you. We're going to copy and paste all of these second page clauses onto the second page of the Schedule A. Now, does anybody notice a scroll bar appearing whenever I'm on here now? No, no scroll bar, right? I don't have to scroll down. That means that everything you see here will print properly. Same thing with the second page. Now, I'm not going to talk about adding a third page to this because this is not our transaction. This is just a template of the transaction. And so later on, if you were to need to add more clauses, I'm going to show you that example too. So what we have complete right now is a template for a buyer who is buying a freehold property. We have clauses in the Schedule A, which is at least sufficient to get that offer started. And we have all of the forms in that collection. Is everybody with me so far? Okay. If you have any questions about this stage, write it down or jot it down, keep it to the end. So what we're going to do now is save this. Now it does auto-save, but I never really trust auto-save. So I click on the file icon. I click on the save icon, and I click on, and then I click on save. There. Now I know for sure that it's safe. So what have we done so far? We've created a transaction template. We added forms to it. We added clauses to it. And of course, we identified what kind of transaction that is. Everybody's with me so far. Now, again, don't sweat it if the first time around is confusing. It took me several times of doing this. This is, in fact, it's only my second time doing it. I'm just kidding. It's not my second time. I don't know much more than many of you know. So, I mean, if something comes up that I don't have the answer to, we'll have to figure it out together. I've only done this a couple more times than you, so it's not like I'm an expert or anything. So now we go back to our dashboard. And you notice that all of a sudden, all of these things are starting to light up. Again, don't worry about what these things say. I want you to focus on the most important thing. Let's say, for example, now Vita has a freehold buyer who's purchasing a freehold house. And who has a freehold listing right now? Victoria, do you have a freehold listing? Okay. Jot down the MLS number or pull it up because we're going to pull it up later on. When we log into CREA's web forms, we see the member dashboard. Vita wants to create an offer for a freehold property. Victoria is the seller's agent. I will pretend to be the seller. And who wants to be the buyer for Vita? Gemma is going to be the buyer. We click on create transaction. And what we're going to call is, who's the buyer again? Gemma, right?
Yep.
Gemma. And Victoria, what's the address of your property?
44 Spruce Avenue.
How do you spell spruce?
Spruce S-P-R-U-C-E.
Okay, Avenue, Spruce, okay. So Gemma, 44 Spruce Avenue. I don't know how you guys name your kids. It's up to you, whether you use buyer's names, whether you use the address. It's up to you how you name it. This is something that's up to you. Now watch. We now have a template for freehold buyer. So fortunately enough, since Vita has created this template, it's going to be a much easier process for her to create an offer from this template. So we click on freehold buyer. What is the data source? It's going to be Toronto, because it's Toronto MLS. And what is the MLS number, Victoria?
M4529838.
Okay. So this is nothing new because on your existing legacy WebForms version, you're able to pull data anyway too. And the only challenge is whether the system recognizes the fields and all that sort of thing, but we'll see how far we get from this. We'll click on create.
You didn't put cooperating name.
Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. No, we're good. We're good. We're good. We're good. We're good. By default, it says cooperating brokerage is your role because you are preparing the offer. Therefore, you are the cooperating broker. So that's a default. Don't touch anything with that. You'll notice that the system pulls information from the MLS, whatever information it can find on it. However, some of the information is blank. And so this is where we start going through it together. Unlike WebForms Legacy, where you have to go through the forms and put the information here, put the information in. Here is a wizard that has various steps for you to input the information. Basically, this is fill in the blanks. And you fill in the blank based on the information on the MLS, whatever it doesn't pull, or information from your client. So let's now go through this together. This is the second step of our training today. We're creating an offer. So Gemma is the buyer. Street number is 44 Spruce Avenue in the city of Richmond Hill, province, Ontario. Postal code is that. Frontage direction. See, this is one of the things you've got to catch. Sometimes the data gets put into the wrong places. These are just glitches with the system. So what is the frontage direction? What is it fronting on, Victoria?
North.
North?
Yeah.
Okay. Fronting on the north. So I will just type north because you know on the agreement of purchase and sale, fronting on the blank side of blank. Just put north. Don't be creative. Just stick with what it's supposed to be. Property type is what?
Freehold.
Yes, sir. Yeah,
Two.
residential. Okay. MLS number, property width. What is the width of the lot size of the lot? Sorry.
4501.
45.01.
45.01.
241.27.
Okay. And is that feet?
Yeah.
Okay. So we put in feet. Assessment roll number. You don't have to put it. Doesn't appear on the agreement of purchase and sale anyway. If you want to put it in, that's fine. It's not going to affect anything. Legal description is here as well because it was pulled. List price, present use. List price I don't need because we're making an offer on it. Some of this data might get pulled, some of it might not. That's why you have to go through this one by one. Present use is single family residence. What does it include? Refrigerator.
Actually, no.
Oh no. I'm going to put it in anyway, whatever.
No, fridge,
That's fine. I'm going to put it in anyway.
stove.
You guys buy me a refrigerator, okay? Dishwasher, washer, dryer,
So at this point, can we copy from
Tesla
the
truck.
MOS?
Yes.
You can do whatever you want at this point. At this point, you're creating an offer. At this point, you're creating an offer. Property excludes chandelier in dining room, fridge in basement. Okay, rental items, hot water tank. Okay. Additional schedules, if there's a schedule B, put B. Purchase price, what's the list price?
1,480,000.
1,488. What would you like to purchase this for, Gemma?
1.1.
1.1, okay.
I got to buy the fridge.
1.1. What's your deposit?
50,000.
50,000, that's it?
Well,
50 beans.
All right, it's 5%, so that's fine. Additional deposit,
she
none.
gives me the fridge. I'll
Where do you bank? Where's your bank?
RBC.
RBC. There's an RBC down the street from here.
Mhm.
If this becomes a serious offer, she's got to give you $50,000 today.
My legal name.
right?
It's okay.
No? Oh, okay. Okay. So is everybody okay with that? Now we click on next. Step number 2 is the dates. Now, contract dates, expiry dates, there's certain things, again, that because the system is very, it's very robust. It's going to have data for all sorts of different fields. Not all the fields are relevant to you right now as a buyer's agent. So, for example, offer date will be relevant, which the offer date is when? Today. Irrevocable until tomorrow. Acceptance date. Has it been accepted? So we don't put that in. Because this is a transaction management software, the reason why they have these fields is because when it is accepted, you're going to be able to put acceptance date there. So you know how right now in your rough trades, you have to type that in every time? Eventually, when you're managing a transaction in this, from what I believe is going to happen, everything you'll be able to do here reflects the entire transaction's status. So that's the reason why they have it here. Additional deposit, none. Closing date, when do you want to close?
2 months.
31st? Great. New Year's Eve. Title search date is when? 2 weeks prior to that?
Yeah.
Everybody fair? This is stuff you guys know already. This is nothing new.
For the
Click.
irrevocable date, no time?
We'll talk about that in a moment. So it has a date. So this is a good thing that Jennifer noticed it. There's a date, but there's no time. So this is where we still have to go and edit some parts of the offer. Contacts that are here. Now, there's a multiple contacts here. Victoria's here, Vita's here, the seller is here. So as a transaction management platform, at some point in the future, you may have your entire buyer side and seller side all sitting on the virtual or digital table, even though they're all in different places, negotiating this offer in one platform. That's the whole idea behind this thing. So right now, what I recommend is you on the buyer side should just be dealing with the buyer side. But in the future, if you wanted the seller and the seller's agent concurrently working on this, Once you're done, the transaction goes to them and all that sort of thing. Or if everybody already agrees on all the terms and everybody signs all together, it's going to be a lot easier. Whereas right now, it's so fragmented. So for those of you asking, why are we going into a system like this? This is the future of the way transactions are going to be done. However, we're going to, for the sake of safety reasons and whatnot, I'm going to delete the existing seller. You would not delete this seller in your example. I'm deleting it because I don't want the system to mess up. I don't want this to become a legitimate offer and then all of a sudden Gemma's on the hook for buying this. You might accept at 1.1. She hasn't signed, but she will. But she will. Victoria's on here. Vita's on here. Now, I want to show you in this part of the wizard, and I want you to pay attention to this, how to add a contact so that that contact is involved in this transaction. So Gemma's not on this. I'm the pretend seller, so I'm going to add myself as pretend seller. We'll start with me. So you have multiple options at this point: create new transaction contact, add existing contact, add yourself, or add contact from Google. Oops, I shouldn't have clicked on that. In this case, I'm using Vita's. So if I wanted to add Vita to it, she's already there, by the way, but if I wanted to add her to it, that's what the option would be. Add an existing contact. This is probably something from your address book. I'm going to create a new transaction contact. So here I'm going to add myself as seller. You would not do this in your example because the seller is already predefined by the listing. I'm only doing this for the sake of the example today. Does that make sense? Yeah, it's just a dummy. I'm just a dummy, right? So here, you can actually preset all of this, including, because remember, Docusign is linked to this, preferred signature. So I'm going to type in my name already. Preferred initials, JP. Add to address book. If I want to add it to the address book, you can do that there. So now I'm added as a seller. Now I'm going to add Gemma as a buyer. Gemma, how do you spell your first name? Gemma, last name?
L-E-G-G-E-T-T.
Okay, email?
Gemma@genetics.ca.
Correct?
Yeah.
Make sure.
Yes.
Legal name?
Gemma.
Let me see your ID, please.
G-E-R-A.
No, I'm just kidding. I'm just playing. FinTrack, please. We don't want to really have her legitimately purchase this, do we? Okay, so does everybody get that? Adding a contact. Don't skip the wizard because the wizard is the easiest way to prepare this transaction. I know it's a lot of work. Oh, there's 5 steps in this thing. Once you do this, everything is going to be pretty much 80, 90% done for you.
2 sellers.
2 sellers, okay.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
Al threw a curveball at me. Okay, why not? Let's add a second seller. So I partnered with Al because he is my investor. He's got all the money,
Ah,
right? Al, what is your email address?
ALI
Mhm.
SADEGHI number 4
Mm-hmm.
gmail.com.
Okay, so there's at least 3 other Alcidegis in the world, eh? Everybody with us so far?
yes.
Okay. Let's add a second buyer. You know what? While we're here, why not create it
I'm
even more
married,
complicated?
yeah.
Who are you married to?
In this room.
Who is
My
Gemma's
husband.
business partner here?
Stephen.
Steven? How do you spell your name, Steven?
S-T-E.
Okay.
S-M-I-T-H.
Okay. Email?
S-T Smith.
Social
S-
insurance.
S.T. Smith? Like that?
At Treadnet.
Do you have your phone with you? You do? Okay. On you.
But it's not, it won't come to that.
It will come to it.
We don't call you, don't worry.
Oh, it is.
For
Fine.
sure.
No, I have to give you my other email address if you want it.
Okay, give me your other email address.
Okay, it's
Steve.
Hey guys, shh, 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 please, please.
Stephen, S-T-E-P-H-E-N,
Uh-huh.
Smith, at, no, 10T, sorry, go back, 10, Stephen Smith, 10T,
And T, like this,
T at Gmail.
like this.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So we got 2 buyers, 2 sellers. Next, forms. So these are all the different forms that are associated with this particular transaction. Now, if you did not create a template kit or a transaction template, you will not have these forms. You will have to add them one by one. So yes, you could create a transaction, but now you have to add them one by one. What we're suggesting, once we give out these template checklists, create all of these templates already so that come the time you have to make an offer, you're already ready to go. Otherwise, Stephen, you are a realtor. So here's that earlier example you guys wanted to give me a hard time with doing. Stephen is a registered realtor. He has to provide a disclosure per Real Estate Business Brokers Act 2002. Therefore, he has to provide which disclosure? Registered disclosure as what? As a buyer. Which form is that? Acquisition or disposition? Acquisition. What is the form number? Free lunch on me if you give me the form number. Don't look. No. Fail.
Well, you knew that would
I
happen.
did. I'm okay. 160. Okay.
I was
You
going
said
to.
it. He was the one who said it anyway. So, okay, I'm going to go back to this. If you add a form to this, you are not messing up your transaction template. Why? The transaction template was pulled to generate these forms for this transaction. So whatever you do here does not affect your templates.
Good.
That's the beauty of this. So now I can add 160 to this. And this is how I recommend you do it, because not every single transaction you're involved in will have a realtor. And now I add it, and because it knows the role of Stephen as the buyer, it will populate with whatever fields it needs to in order for him to be a buyer. Is everybody okay with this so far?
Yeah.
So we created transaction templates. We created an actual transaction using that template. And we're now just about to get into our last discussion today. And it's 2 o'clock, but we're going to go just a little bit over. Our last part of this will be signatures using Docusign. So forms are done. Next step is a fax cover sheet. Now, I wouldn't pay too much attention to this. I'm going to show you what this is anyway, because some of you may be curious about what it is. My feeling is that this would be used for if you printed out on paper this entire forms and you wanted to go back into this transaction platform, you'd probably fax it using this cover sheet. It will know which agent and which platform to put it into. That makes sense, or is that a bit confusing? So this is that.
It's different.
Yeah, this is step 5 of 5. That's step 5 of 5. Okay, just disregard that part for now, because a lot of you don't use fax. All of you don't use fax these days. Now we're done. That's it. Hooray! Property sold, right?
Oh, we just see the final paper.
What do you mean? I thought we're done.
I know, but we haven't seen the.
We didn't sign.
We did not sign. What else didn't we do?
Proof it.
We didn't proof it. So you know what? It's not that. It was. You know what? We got to go back now. We got to look into actually looking at every single form that's relevant and actually signing. We haven't signed this thing yet. You guys are celebrating. You're counting your commission check already. We haven't even done anything yet. Okay. What we've just finished is the actual creating of the transactions. But now, how do you go in and look at every single individual form? Well, okay, the screen up here is a bit, I don't know why this is showing up, but here, let me see if I can move this and if it changes anything now. Okay, hold on. Give me 1 second, guys. Okay, there. On the right side of your screen here are the different menu items. We're going to click into forms now. And there's a whole bunch of forms that are here. What we're going to do is we're going to proofread. I'm not going to proofread every single one of them for the sake of our time. But for example, we're going to go into agreement of purchase and sale because that's one of the most important ones, if not the most important of this entire set. Not 320, which is your commission. Well, that is also important. But we need to now go into it and make sure everybody's name is on it, all the dates are proper, everything is complete, so that you don't get into RICO issues later on. So here. Agreement of purchase and sale, you'll notice that every single thing we type, oh, wait a minute, Stephen, right? So where do you think I made that mistake? So I'm partly doing this. Yeah.
North is missing too.
Yeah,
North is missing as well?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's good.
So it's a good thing then that we check these forms before sending them out to sign and celebrating, right? So we can create the actual edits right on here. Now, and I haven't tried this particular function of whether it's going to update the actual information that was wrong. North is also missing, so we put north side of Spruce Avenue.
That would have been because you didn't hit save.
Right.
when you were doing the update.
Stay all the time.
Exactly. So in the,
Instead of Blizzard, can we come right away here and
No,
fill the
city
form?
now.
Yeah.
City now.
oh, it's a city, sorry, my
It's
apologies.
changed.
City of
Exactly.
Richmond Hill.
Yeah, that is-
So again, save the questions to the end, but I'll answer that one. You can, yes, you can do this if you wanted to. You could skip the wizard
Yeah.
and just come directly here.
Yeah.
But it's up to you how you want to do this.
Oh,
And in more cases than not, if you do the wizard, it should be complete. Sometimes, as Connie said, I may have forgotten to click on save on some of these.
That's what's
And
nice
so-
because it's giving you forgiveness too.
Yeah.
You're not-
You are forgiven.
Legal description.
Feet, right? Legal description. Legal description. Right? Not going to go through every single one. You get the point, right? Buyer upon acceptance, 50,000, and payable to, of course, the listing brokerages information is there, right? And it's a dual agency. So here, yes, you can go and complete the irrevocable by buyer until 11:59 p.m. I'm not going to go through every single part of this. You get it. You get this part, right? Of the offer. We're going to go into the e-signatures next. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Now, all of the forms are complete in the sense that, of course, you have to check for errors, omissions, and whatnot. Click on save, which I forgot to do that time, but click on save here. Now, you have two options. If you don't want to use Docusign or electronic signatures, click on this file button and click on save as PDF to download it to your computer and print it out later on, or just press on file and print. So then you can print it and then have it signed. So you are still able to do signatures on paper. But now what we're going to do to finish off is we're going to sign this. And so when you go to your transaction kits, you'll see, for example, Gemma 44 Spruce Avenue. There's a whole bunch of different menu items that you have here, contacts, forms, and all of the things that we've done. We click on this to open it up. Now, how many of you have actually used Docusign with this? With this particular one? Connie, have you used Docusign with this?
Oh, no, not yet.
No? Okay. So in order for you to get signatures, on the menu items here, on the very top of the page, there is a pen icon. And that's what opens this up to go to Docusign. Now the thing is, there's several, in this transaction kit, there are several forms, right? So one thing that, again, we're all learning this brand new together. Yesterday I did the demo on Treb Instant and Attempt to Sign, which for those of you who want to use Treb Instant and Attempt to Sign is going to be a different topic altogether. But basically, one of the things that we've got to look at is, how do you create or how do you get signatures from the multiple different files? And that's something that I'm going to have to get back to you in terms of how do you, for example, here you can add various ones if you upload it, or you can download the kit through the transaction kit that you've created or the transaction template that you created. This is a difference in the functionality between the different platforms. In CREA WebForms, in order for you to get the signature, you'd have to click on that to sign, and then you go into the actual Docusign. Here it's asking me for the name. Then you'd have to go into the actual Docusign platform to get everything signed. Does that make sense? So what I would do now on this particular step is I would put in the signature fields appropriate to each particular recipient. So buyer, seller, if you're doing all four of them, but in this particular case, you're representing the buyer side. So it would be Vita's signatures for her own as an agent, and it would be Gemma and Steven's signatures as the purchasers. Is anybody unfamiliar with how to use Docusign? Because this is not a Docusign training today. Is anybody unfamiliar with how to use Docusign? We provide Docusign training separately. It's not going to be one of the things that I've covered today. Today, I just wanted to cover how you bring the form into Docusign so that you're able to sign it. Because once you're there and you're a user of Docusign, you're going to be able to have that. So Docusign training is something else.
Do we have to have a DocuSign?
You have to have Docusign? No. So if you don't want to use electronic signatures,
No, I want to use it, but I want to use the Identisign.
Authentisign? Okay, so this is where we start opening up for questions. So
Sure.
first of all, is everybody okay so far?
Yeah.
You've been able to create a transaction template for now. You're able to create a transaction from that template. We're able to export it into Docusign. I want to spend the last maybe 5-10 minutes of this meeting, number one, answering your questions, but number two, I do want to share the differences in the different platforms with you. I know it creates a bit of a confusion. If you don't want to hear it, just plug your ears, that's okay. But I feel that because you have these two options, you should be aware, because we have questions. I don't want to use Docusign, I want to use Authentisign, what do I do now? Right, so I'm going to sort of give you a glimpse of the different options that you have. So first, I'm going to ask if you have any questions.
John,
Yes.
first question is that because I uploaded through the Red Rover,
Okay.
and same problem you mentioned that it's all, I have to just fix the space and
Shh,
everything.
guys, please.
For saving because sometimes I worry that they transfer all the clauses for me or
Right.
not.
Yes.
Do you think if I put the number beside of each clause, it's look like very basic for somebody that's looking?
Okay, so the question is, because you want to be able to retain the clauses, what happens if your clause format has numbers beside it and you put that into agreement of purchase and sale? I wouldn't, I mean, what do you think? I wouldn't do it, right? No, so you have several, with the CREA web forms, Remax Hallmarks clauses are there. All of your custom clauses from your the legacy web forms are also here. So I'll show you, for example. We'll go back into web forms. You may have to log in again. Vita, you may have to log in again. I think I closed this screen here. Actually, you know what? No, it's okay. I'll use my own one for this. So let's pretend you have a form, and I'm just taking shortcuts just to show you the actual addition of clauses and all that sort of thing. When you go into clauses on your schedule, you click on the clause button, click on that, and it's going to pull all of the clause collections. All of my personal clauses that I've had from the beginning, or should be here. Let me just, it took us time to load up. So let's wait for it.
Have you migrated all your stuff over?
No, we're going to talk about migration too. Okay. Where is it? It's taking a bit of time. Okay, we'll look at the office clauses. All of Remax Hallmarks office clauses are here. So that's one collection that you have access to, right, in case you want that. Now, if you're referring to some of your own,
it's on the site.
It's on the new, exactly, on the CREA web forms. If you are, I don't know why it's not loading up my personal clauses, but last time I checked, it was there.
Did you migrate them over?
They were there already last time I checked. Okay, I'm going to have to look into that. System clauses are, of course, the standard clauses that are available to everybody. So they're all there as well. Now, with Vita's question, if you have your own clause collection, like you've saved it, or like, for example, you're using a Word file, putting clause numbers in there, on the actual offer, you should not put the clause number in. It doesn't look good. Right, so just copy and paste only the clause itself.
Second thing, when you're talking about the saving the information, and you mentioned that this is a good point because when we save here, it's not affect on the template.
Yes.
So if I open my template and just enter the new offer, then I save it. My template will be there.
So
saving will be separate.
So to clarify what Beta is asking, if you go in and you create a transaction or you modify a transaction, any changes you make to that transaction do not affect your templates that you've created in the beginning. So for example, if I go in here into settings and transaction templates, remember we were using the Freehold buyer template, right? However, when I go in to the forms, remember how we added the disclosure statement? Do you see it here? No? No, because it doesn't touch the transaction templates. Anything you do in a transaction is separate from the templates.
So we don't need to duplicate in this system.
You don't need to, okay, so good question. You don't need to duplicate like you did in web forms. So once you've set up all of your transaction kits or templates, what they call a transaction template, once you have it set up, all you have to do each time is when you go to create a transaction, you only have to choose which type of transaction it is. So is it a freehold buyer? Is it a condo buyer? Is it a freehold listing or a condo listing? Right? So all the templates are retained there. It will always pull those forms for you. Yes, Mr. Epstein?
Because you've added a 2-page Schedule A.
Yes.
Let's say you only use page 1.
Yes.
You cannot eliminate page 2 for signing, can you? Because it now says
yes.
9 of 9, 8 of 9. What if you want to add a third page?
Yes.
Does it say 9 of 9
Okay.
and then 1 of 1?
Good point. So let's go back in. So again, this is a very good point. Let's first of all pretend that we need to add a third page, because that's a more likely example. Because we've already filled 2 pages out as a default, so we know we're using 2. Now, just as an aside though, if you ever had to delete one of those pages, you have to decide whether it's going to happen at the transaction template level, meaning the original documents, or if it happens later on. So let's say, for example, in your transaction template, by default, you have 2 pages, but it's going into multiple offers. You want a clean offer as much as possible. You only want 1 clause, which is balance of purchase price. And you have no time to do all that right away. Typically, you'd put schedule that on the second page, you might just put intentionally left blank and then just signature. That's one of the ways to do it. But how would you do it, Jordan?
I don't know. I haven't used the system.
Your eyes.
How would I do it? I probably wouldn't have printed a second page.
Probably
in the
wouldn't
old
have printed.
system. In the new system, I don't
Right.
know.
Yeah. So we'll go. Okay. So let's look at the example of adding a page. You know what? Let's use both examples. Okay. So let's pull the agreement of purchase and sale, and I'll give you what the options are. And this is the reason why these sessions are great, because a lot of these questions will come up, which I may not have thought of. You may
I
not
guess
have thought
I
of.
figured out how I would
Right?
do it. I do it always as a 1 page and
Yes.
then adding pages after that.
But what if your original template is 2 pages with clauses? That's where these issues come in.
We'll correct that and remove the 2 pages.
So we're going to try something. We're going to try something, okay? Let's try it. So our default template for this transaction is a 2-pager, because that's how many templates, that's how many pages we need. Is that fair? So for now. So let's say, for example, then, that we want to add a page. We're going to use the example of adding a page for now. We would go up here, and you see this icon? This icon says, do you want to add a new page to the form? We click on yes. And it's going to ask you, what page would you like to add? Well, it doesn't ask you what page you'd like to add. It would just add another schedule to it. That's how you add. Right? It's fairly simple. Now let's say we want to delete. Actually, there is a function here, remove page.
Yes, remove.
So let's remove it. Actually, you might be able to remove it. So let's see if it will remove the second page of the schedule.
I don't think it says. I don't think
So it says page 7 of 7. We want it to say page 6 of 6. Let's see if it'll remove it. And let's see if it does that.
For the first page.
There you go, page 6 of 6.
Oh,
There you go.
then can you add some?
What if you removed every single page? How far
Imagine
back
they
would it
want
go?
to decide
Yes.
something extra compared
Yes.
to something in the normal schedule. They want to, I don't know, just give all the warranty for the paperwork to the lawyer office. Can we add manually in here?
You can. So watch. You just type it, just like you normally would.
Is that a font that you've set, or is that their typical?
Automatic.
This font?
You can
So in the
change
very beginning, we talked about setting up a font.
You can change
Yeah. So you can change the font that appears in the system.
It's
You can.
very small and.
But even you can
So
change
here,
it
watch.
here. have changed it there
Program
on the
setting. I
text.
could have? Okay. So where was it? Sorry.
Something we can read and sign only.
Okay, here, sorry. Settings,
No room for changes.
settings,
Form
here watch,
settings.
settings, program settings, form settings, font. So default size, you can make it bigger. Default font, maybe Times Roman if you want, or Courier, whatever you want. That's where you change your fonts. You could also change it, I think Gemma saw something where you could change it in the actual agreement, right? Or in the actual, let's see,
There's a
this one here?
the text. Yeah, font.
Yeah, you know what, you're right. You can change it here too.
I know I'm right.
Very good, of course you
Comic Sans or
And
There you
then
go.
we can pass
Comic
the
Sans?
wizard, yes?
Comic
Wizard.
Sans, no, unfortunately, no.
Smiley face.
Smiley emoji, no, unfortunately, no. Anything else?
We can pass the wizard and go directly to the offer. And
Yeah, okay, so watch. If you want to create, let's say you want to jump into the offer right away.
Yeah.
You can actually just go into forms here, pick your form 100, and it's going to go here, right? Schedule A, let's say just one Schedule A page, and you can just click create a new standard form. You can do that too.
From the template, next time.
From the template, it asks you if you want to go through the wizard. So let's say, for example, you want to create another new transaction. Okay, test, freehold buyer, import data, use wizard, you just uncheck it.
Oh.
Right.
And then?
That's it. And you could create, and then it's just going to pull up this view of it. You're not going to be able to,
So you
I mean, some information you put in here, but it's not going to go through the one by one. It just needs this information, but you can go right into forms now and then just start typing it in. Now, I don't know why you'd want to do that because you'll have to populate most of the forms manually at that point, whereas in the wizard, it would populate a lot of it for you.
everywhere.
Practically everywhere. There's bits and pieces that you'll notice as you're starting to use this that
And John, when you're going to Docusign,
Mhm.
When you upload, all
Yes.
the package for that template is coming to
that okay,
DocuSign?
so I'm going to be very honest. This is the first time I tried doing it through DocuSign. I was using the Authentisign version of it because of requests, so I'm going to touch upon that just for a brief moment. I'm going to have to figure out, and this will probably be ready for Aurora's session on Tuesday, how to upload the entire package. On Authentisign, just to give you a glimpse, on Authentisign, on Treb's version of it, I don't want to confuse you guys. That's why I want to try to keep it as simple as possible. But for those of you using Authentisign, I know that you can't help it, but try to start exploring it. Authentisign, because it's integrated into the Treb Authentisign Internet system, it will actually map all of the signatures depending on the transaction type you create. So instead of you uploading it to Docusign, whether it's one by one or as a kit I haven't figured that part out yet, but through Authentisign, you just send it to signatures. It will identify all the signatures where it is, and it just sends out in a batch.
And Authentisign is free, right?
Authentisign is free, but you've paid for it in your membership, your Treb membership.
Including.
Yeah, so technically you've paid for it. Any other questions before we wrap up today's
Yes,
session?
I do
Yes.
actually. I was watching your video and I decided to come because I did
Okay.
it through the Treb one.
Yes.
And I was trying to create an offer because I need to create an offer right now
Okay.
on an MLS that is expired.
Yes.
And it would not let me do this.
If it's expired, it's probably not pulling from the data.
It doesn't,
right?
yeah.
Yeah. So
So then
there's-
you have to do it manually.
Yes. If it's not letting you do it, it's probably not pulling because if it's expired. So it probably it can only do it on an active listing, right?
But John, can you please go to the DocuSign because I need to send some document by
Okay.
today or
I'm not going to be able to do that today.
So if I'm gonna load it, I have to
Yeah.
load one by one.
I haven't tried that step. That's why I wanted to know. I know, Connie, you probably never tried that yet either, right? There's a lot of this. Okay, so being very fully
Hi,
transparent.
sorry, Jonder. We're just
There's a lot. There's a lot of things that will come up. This is by no means the last session. Aurora's the next session. Yesterday at Bayview was the first time I did it at that scale. And even then we had so many questions. That's why it's 2.5 hours long. We're already 1 hour and a half sort of into this. What's going to end up happening, like it's not like I want to rush anything. There's a lot of stuff that we're still have to learn from it. So I'm taking some of your questions. For example, uploading the entire Docusign into it. I've never done it. So if anybody listening or if anybody here has done it, let us know. The next session will have it. Aurora, I'm hoping to have that figured out. Tribe Internet Authentisign, for those of you who want to use it, please approach me. We will set that up as a separate meeting. Next week and the following week, stay tuned because at the training center, we will be holding multiple sessions of this. In fact, next Monday, I'm going to be holding one. The following Monday, I'm holding 2 sessions because there's just so much to learn. And again, I appreciate the fact that all of you have come out here and some of you have joined us online. We're going to share this video. I don't think it's the best one yet because we're not 100% there yet either. So I'm hoping but at least it'll help you with some of the steps. The resources that Connie has brilliantly come up with to help us at least bypass some of the searching for forms. I mean, Connie's going to be providing a list of all of the different forms that you need for each transaction. So if you watch this video, you're going to know how to create it. Yeah. But the forms and what to add, Connie's going to help you out with that because she's going to send us a file of that. We'll also have the clauses so that you can add the clauses into it. So between all of that and all of the resources, hang tight because a lot of us are still just trying to learn this. This is only, again, I've only done this a couple of more times than you have, right?
You
so
were going to talk about the difference between CREA and the other.
Right. I didn't want, like on Thursday on the Bayview meeting, it was a bit confusing. We realized afterwards when I watched the video because I went into both of them right away, which I apologize for everybody who was confused by that. Both CREA and Treb are going to be running using the Lone Wolf platform, which they do back-end office accounting and all that sort of thing. However, they don't communicate to each other. Whatever you're doing on CREA WebForms here, if you log into Treb, you will not see it. And if you do see it, it's because you probably logged in at the same time. However, once you log out and you log back in again to either one of them, it's going to create a lot of confusion. But if you're missing pages and missing documents, the reason why is because you probably started doing it in one of the platforms, and then now you're looking at the other platform. So please don't do that. Pick either CREA's WebForms or TREB's WebForms. If you happen to be using both, I don't know, good luck to you, but make sure you're logging in and out constantly. The key difference between TREB Internet Authentisign and CREA WebForms, even though they're both running on a Lone Wolf platform, CREA WebForms, you can choose your signature provider, Docusign, for example, but you notice that it doesn't link to Authentisign.
That's right.
This is part of the e-signature battles that's starting to brew with this. Because TREB Internet Authentisign is only Authentisign compatible, you cannot use Docusign in the TREB Internet Authentisign unless it's like a post PDF signing period that's later down the road. However, TREB's Internet Authentisign has advantages. Number one, it has signature mapping. Because Authentisign is integrated into it, whenever you're creating a transaction, and it's the reason why we identify who's the buyer, who's the seller. Let's say Jordan's the buyer, and I created a transaction kit using a template that we've created. If I've identified him as the buyer and me as a cooperating broker, the moment I click it to send for signatures, it knows where everybody has to sign already. You don't have to manually, like DocuSign, put in the signature spots. Now, there's good and bad to that. The good thing is convenience. The bad to that is, you still have to double check to make sure every field is correct, because there are certain duplication fields. For example, working with Realtor has represent as a client or not representing my interests. The mapping will put both initials in both spots. So if you forget to delete that, you're working with both a client and a customer, which makes that form invalid, right? So you still have to double check. And needless to say, though, you have to double check these things anyway. Right? You have to double check anyway. So that's one. The second benefit of TREB Internet Authentisign is that it has an MLS data information form direct upload. So I've taught some of you this feature. You can go into your MLS data information form if you're listing a condo or a freehold. Once you've typed everything into there, there's a one button upload into a draft. So when you go to do your broker load and the add edit feature of Toronto MLS, the draft will already be sitting there. Make sure you still get that signed though, but once you get it signed, you can actually publish the MLS right from there. So you don't have to do copy and paste. Those are the advantages of TREB. Now, CREA too has its advantages. Number one, I just like the look and feel of this. I don't know why. It looks a lot better, a lot easier to navigate. Number two, it has Rematch Hallmark's custom clauses in there. So if you're using TREB Internet Authentisign, those custom clauses are not there. Barbara is working to see how we're going to get that in. But you have to pull it from Hallmark Hub and then copy paste into whatever you need. Number three, your forms to click over to bring them over, for example, watch. Give me 1 second. To migrate your forms into, whoops, I can't do it here. To migrate your forms, okay, try this out. You're going to have to visualize it. Let me see if I can log in. Just give me 1 second, guys. To log into, once you log into Realtor Link, and this is the legacy version, you'll notice that December 16 is the new cutoff. After December 16, you can't use this aside from reading. It's a read-only access. You can only access your existing. But let's say, for example, I wanted to pull up a kit. This was, well, okay, let's look at that. Let's look at this particular condo listing forms. If I wanted this to migrate into WebForms, all I have to do is click on this button. Now, I'm not going to spend time on this because I'll tell you why. And this is how we're going to finish it off. If you have any questions, you can ask. But if you have 300, 400, 500, 600 transactions right now for the years that you've been in the business, the question is, do you really need something from 10 years ago?
Not really.
Not really, unless you have a special clause. If you have a special clause, you should be keeping that somewhere anyway. So that, put that into a Word file or Google Keep or your notes. I would look at this as a brand new way to restart. All of the forms you have before, the signed ones that you've already gotten paid for is sitting either in your outbox because you sent it to Susan or Anusha, or it's sitting in your hard drive somewhere. The only real benefit to downloading this is if you really want to archive it. I use the term digital hoarder like me. If I just, I like to keep things. So if you want to download it, my recommendation is just click download. Download every single one, but good luck downloading 500, 600. That's up to you now.
That's probably one of the reasons why they're determining this is storage space.
Could be.
If they eliminate everyone across the board, all of the transactions, the
Could
amount of
be.
data they're gonna open up is huge.
Could be. Yeah. But then this data will fill up again anyway. Right.
At least you're starting from zero.
Okay.
again.
So which one are you
Yes.
going to use, the CREA or the?
Good question.
Toronto
We're going to
one?
cut off our transmission now. No, I'm just kidding. In terms of the usage, it's really up to you. We don't want to sound biased in terms of one or the other. We're kind of favoring right now the CREA web form just because of its simplicity and integration with DocuSign. Treb Instant Edit Sign does have its benefits as well. I'm basically studied both of them. And so I can teach you both. There's not really, in terms of the look and feel, they're both the same because they're both Lone Wolf. Only minor changes in color and minor changes in the icons. There's only really a functionality difference. So Treb's version of it has signature mapping and it has a direct upload. That's really all it has over CREA's, which if that's enough for you to be like, if that's convenient enough for you to make a decision to go that route, that's up to you. Right? If that doesn't really matter to you because you love DocuSign more, the fact that there's a DocuSign app is one of the advantages of doing the CREA WebForms version, right? Use the CREA WebForms. The processes are very similar with both. That's why I don't want to confuse you going back and forth. If you know how to use CREA's WebForms, you know how to use Treb's WebForms. Let's put it that way. Except just small functionality differences in each. Any other questions? No? Okay, great. So we're going to end the transmission here, and for those of you who have, oops, where's my recording? I hope that's saved. For those of you who have any questions, you can ask, you can email me, you can reach out to me at any time. I am running this session again in Aurora, and hopefully by then I'll have the answers to these questions. And in the training center too, look out for that. On Monday, I'm running this at the training center as well. So I actually hope to have a training center next Monday. Let me see my calendar. I am running it.
This coming Monday, you mean?
This coming Monday, 9 o'clock. December 9 at 11 a.m. 11 to 12. And the following, and then members of our leadership team too will be running sessions throughout the week. So we're cycling between each other. Our training center, don't get it. Same one. Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much, everybody. Have a fantastic one, and hopefully we'll see you at the next training session.